Just a little bit about IPM. For those of you that don't know, IPM is the first WHO collaborating center for palliative care among developing countries. It also has created and developed palliative care programs in other countries, and it's currently working on it as well. And so we have the pleasure of having the presence of three doctors who are representing Bangladesh and the Philippines. And so I just want to ask them a few questions about their experience in palliative care, a few questions regarding their relation to IPM, and so on. And so my first question is for Dr. Nizam. And so we've heard many great things that you've done here at IPM. And I wanted to ask about your work in palliative care and the ripple effect it's created. Would you be able to share your first encounter with IPM and how that's impacted you?
Yeah, thank you very much, Shivani. Before I say anything, I would like to thank all the people, each and every one of this institute, for showing me, for telling me the story and making it visible and real to me. What's compassion? What is palliative care? And at the end of the day, what is good about Bangladesh biryani? Thank you very much. Thanks. Secondly, Shibani, as you were saying, my experience with IPM. Now, how can I complete my 18 years journey in 10 minutes? That is something impossible. So you guys need to understand in between the lines. Back in 2005, on probably 20th April, midnight, I landed in IPM for the first time as a pretty senior doctor. 20 years seniority, not knowing the meaning of palliative care, nothing about palliative care, and so many other things related to palliative care. From then on, the journey began, and now it has been 18 years. And trust me, these 18 years journey had been the fantastic, beautiful journey of my whole life. And that's why I keep on coming back. Why do I come back? I've been here 10, 11, 12 times probably, I can't even remember. With half of the money and half of the time, I could probably go to Bangkok or Singapore or somewhere. But why, if I have time, probably I'll be back here again 10 more times. Why? And that is the most important message probably I would like to give you all. Why do I come back? Do I come back for you? No, I come back for myself. Entirely for myself. Because what you have created here is a magic. The Institute of Palliative Medicine, the whole area, the environment, the vibe, where you always keep on coming back and ask yourself who I am. What do I really want? Each and every human being on this planet has an empty space within themselves. Either they know it or they don't know it, or they don't want to know it. But this place forces you to search for that meaning. Before I conclude, I would just like to say one more thing. You know, what is the greatest lesson that I learned? That I don't know what I don't know. That is the most important. Try to know that what you don't know. And this place keeps on teaching me till today that I should try to know what I don't know. Thank you.
Very well put. Thank you for that enlightening answer. So my next question is for Dr. Shohara. I had the pleasure of meeting her last week at the International Association of Palliative Care Conference. And she also came to IPM a few days before Curios and was also helping the volunteers out with many of the preparations for Curios. And so my first question is, what was that experience like for you, working alongside the volunteers? What new perspectives did you take away from that? What did you enjoy about it? Tell us a little bit about that.
Thank you for the question. Actually, the volunteers isn't a new thing for me, because I've also been to some missions, medical missions with volunteers working around me. But when I met the first batch, first batch of volunteers that I met here back in 2020, I can't explain the feeling, but they just made me cry. I just see the drive, the energy, like what Dr. Nizam is saying, like they're searching their meaning, and I think they found that in volunteering here in IPM. So that experience with volunteers taught me like I should be more keen on looking what I could contribute to the community, to other people. That way, it also gives me back the reward of, feeling great about myself, being able to make people happy, being able to give back to the community and to the people who are helping me, not in a monetary or any material or physical way, but the fact that they're giving me this kind of happiness and joy, that's already a reward to me. So I think what my experience about volunteers are very deep, because they're teaching me a lot. They're very young. I don't want to count my age, okay? They're very young and they have so much ahead of them. But now you're here because your season in life is very appropriate for this setting, for this activity. So you just enjoy, do what you can to contribute to the community, and most especially to the people who are very happy to receive what you're giving them. Thank you.
Well said. Thank you so much. And I have another question for you. We would love to hear your take on your palliative care experience in the Philippines. Can you talk a little bit about how the palliative care is structured there?
Okay. First and foremost, I am not the right person to give you the details of palliative care in the Philippines, because palliative care is in the Philippines even the time before I was born. So that's 40 years ago. And as what I know, palliative care medicine started through the Cancer Society, because this is most likely connected, most commonly connected with cancer. And then later on, some NGOs arose, and then I think when it comes to the policy is just very newly approved in 2020, same year, February 2020, and then that's how it's trying to be integrated into the medical field, to the society. So basically, I would say that it's there. But like what Dr. Nizam was saying earlier, he's the most senior doctor, but he never heard about palliative care. So I think that's the same scene for me. It has been there 40 years, and I just learned about it some 3 years ago. So when I came to IPM, I came with a clean slate, like a blank slate. I have nothing in mind. I have zero knowledge about palliative care. I don't even know why they accepted my application since I don't have any background in palliative care. But actually, that's the start of that journey. And one of the people who inspired me to go on with palliative care is just sitting right next to me, Dr. Nizam, sir. So, like how sincere he was when he was telling the story, just really makes me cry. So he made me cry in that class, and since then I was changed about palliative care, and I knew that this is where I belong.
Wow, what a sweet moment. Thank you so much for sharing. I just wanted to take a quick minute to recognize that for the first time during Curios, we have international stall holders. We have a stall from our very own, a Bangladesh stall that's serving spicy foods and sweets. When I spoke to Sanjita ma'am this morning, she told me that it was a token of gratitude to IPM for allowing such a collaboration that's supporting them and the Pain and Palliative Care Society in Bangladesh for the past 18 years. So I wanted to ask you, recently you became the secretary of the Pain and Palliative Care Society in Bangladesh. What are your plans for sustaining and strengthening that relationship?
Thank you, Shivani. Very interesting question. I was thinking that I should be asked about my compassion and my journey, but you are asking the future plan. So I will ask you to visit our stall, that is number 62 stall, and we made a timeline from 2005 to 2023 and to be continued. So from there I want to start. So what we want, you know, in Bangladesh, it's an 18-year journey, but small clusters of palliative medicine centers are there, and especially that is the city-based. So at first level, we are planning to do awareness program, and we are doing that. And then some education and training, little bit, we are also on that. And then a little bit service delivery. And now Palliative Society of Bangladesh is planning to develop an Institute of Palliative Care Bangladesh. And we already signed one MOU with IPM, and it will be in same as IPM, culturally adopted. So we are looking forward for that.
Wow. Congrats on that.
Thank you.
Okay, so my next question, back to Dr. Nizam. I've heard that you have multiple identities, one as Mr. Confusion, and the second, you're known here at IPM as Biryani Man. And so I wanted you to try to explain to our audience how you've acquired these two identities.
Yeah, that's the greatest problem. Probably the only identity I would love to have is I'm an IPM man, and it's my institute. It's like, as you say, it's your institute, I would love to claim it's my institute also. That is the only identity I would prefer to. Now, but I love to hear that I'm a biryani man. I mean, Saif was trying to explain me that I should take it as a compliment, because the biryani, I mean, you know, there are different brands of biryani. You put all the spices, the recipe, you can get it from the YouTube. You try to prepare it, and either you can make a mess out of it, or you can prepare the fantastic biryani. It depends on how you really desperately want the biryani to be. That's the very basic essence. How do you want to have a look at this on this planet? How would you like to taste this planet? Do you want to make a mess and create a mess on this planet, or do you want to have a compassionate planet? If you really want a compassionate planet, because this planet is compassionate to you. In this year, in the air there are 21% oxygen and you are not aware of it. If suddenly this oxygen is taken off, we all die. If there is no sunlight, we can't survive. Have we ever thought of giving away the rent of our accommodation on this earth? The oxygen, the sunlight, the water, the nature. Now, that's why I said that this planet is very compassionate. So, to be compassionate is not an option. It's an obligation, it's a must. And if that is so, you have no choice but to render support to others. And that is the rent we should all pay for our accommodation on this planet. That's exactly the way probably we all should look at it. So it's not an option. It's not that I'm supporting him. When I say that I'm supporting him, I'm actually support myself. Because if I don't try to change this planet, then when the support is needed for myself, I can't claim it. And that's what Mahatma Gandhi said, that what you expect from this planet, you should be the change yourself first, and then you can only expect. That's all.
Thank you. What a beautiful meaning you derived from biryani. I never thought so deeply about that. Very interesting. So I think you addressed why they call you biryani man, but why do they call you Mr. Confusion?
Confusion, yeah. The whole journey has been a confusion and is still going on. What's this palliative care? Why we are trying to tell that is something that we are creating, or it's something that we are doing to this earth. Palliative care has been there since the inception of mankind, you know. Forget about the historical background, but I remember my mother actually, when I was very young of your age, would give me a bowl of either a fish curry or some payesh, which you call payasham, and ask me to go and give it to the next door neighbor, maybe an old lady or an old gentleman who is bedbound. Still in our culture there are so many issues, there are so many customs and rituals which go fantastically well with the palliative care moral. So it has been there. All we need is to rediscover it, bring it back, along with a little bit of advancement of medical science. So compassion and competence, if these two things don't go hand by hand, we can't call ourselves compassionate or palliative care people. Your question was, what is my confusion? Now these are the confusions, that what is really palliative care? Is it only for the dying people? Is that only for those who are in the wheelchair or in the bedbound? What about a patient with schizophrenia? Does he need an environment which is supportive to him or her? So there are so many issues which I can say that palliative care is nothing new. All we need to know that what we really don't know. We must try to enlighten ourselves, educate ourselves, and gradually the broad picture of palliative care becomes clear. You know, it's like a very big canvas. You need to decide where do you want to put the first 2 or 3 strokes, and gradually the picture emerges. And that's why I said that can we ever complete the journey of creating the whole canvas of this palliative care? And there remains the confusion. This confusion hasn't got any negative connotation, but the connotation is always positive, to change the whole universe. That's all.
Thank you. You painted such a beautiful picture right there, and I think many of us have instances of this in our lives where we can derive this definition of palliative care and link it to our own personal understanding of it. So thank you for that. My next question is for Dr. Shohara. You mentioned that you last came to IPM in 2020 for the International Fellowship in Palliative Care. And I also heard that it was your first time traveling outside of the Philippines. And so I was wondering, what is the impact that that participating in the National Fellowship has had on your professional and personal life?
Yeah, like I said earlier, I came here with no knowledge about palliative care. I was with some few colleagues in from Manila, and I think I was one of the I don't know. I was so naive when I came, Dr. Nizam, and then I think what I liked about coming here is that they didn't make me feel like I'm dumb. Yeah. So I felt the acceptance, that openness, that everyone is free to express what they want, and you can get every bit of knowledge that you can get from every person that you will be able to talk to, and you'll be surprised because even the people who are very quiet around, if you try just to sit down and talk to them, you'll get a lot of things from them. So my experience personally is, I just cannot define it in one word, or it would take us a lot of time for me to describe. But basically, like, it changed my perspective of who I really am. So when I found that palliative care is my niche, I started exploring more because I'm a pediatrician. So my question is, where do I belong doing this palliative care? Because palliative care in the pediatrics world in Philippines is nil. Like, no one would ever understand what palliative care, though we are already doing it bit by bit, but the concept of the word palliative care is not known to pediatrics. That's why I came here without knowledge. And when I had that fire burning in me to explore palliative care, I started looking for trainings, which later on I learned that there is very scarce training in palliative care, in pediatric palliative care, even worldwide. And it so happened that it was the pandemic, so I could not travel even to Uganda, even if they have this training in Uganda. I cannot travel. So I had this urge to really explore and to be brave enough to ask people for help. So I came to know Megan Doherty, who has been in Nepal and also from parts of Bangladesh, working around humanitarian settings in pediatric palliative care. And it so happened that they are also connected with Hyderabad Center for Palliative Care, with Dr. Gayatri Palat. And right after they received my email, they responded very quickly, and they realized that there's no actually a way to accommodate me. But due to their persistence as well, and they got this idea of having the first hybrid pediatric palliative care training. So that is where my journey with pediatric palliative care started. So from then, I continue to improve my medical journey, but some part of it is always looking back to IPM, because I think that the medical part is is another thing, but the non-medical part, the personal personal improvement and personal progress is more connected with IPM and connecting with people, compassionate people who are very willing to contribute to the community. That's the reason why I'm also here, because of what the Dr. Nizam was saying. Like, it's like a paying gratitude to everything that has been changed, or of who I am today. I'm very thankful to every person who are connected and doing their work here in Institute of Palliative Medicine.
Thank you so much. And I think one really large takeaway from what you said was there was a fire burning in you to explore palliative care. And I encourage everyone to take that as advice, not in regard to palliative care, but just with anything that you feel that you want to explore in your life, do so, because you never know what may come out of it. So thank you for that. My next question is to Sanjida ma'am. This year at Curious, there's a really large representation from the Bangladesh team that includes both you and Dr. Nizam, along with volunteers and other doctors as well. And so I wanted to ask you, I think it's a perfect time to ask at the Curious stage. We're all curious. What drives you back here all the time? What do you look forward to?
Thank you. So last year I visited IPM for the first time, and I thought that I will learn so many things and I will take it in my head. But what happened, in the last day after the fellowship class, we planned to cook the biryani, and it's about arrangement of 300 to 350 people. So after breakfast I was very anxious that how can we cook this much, how can we peel this much onions, how can we peel this much garlics. So I just bring the packets in front of sir. Suddenly I saw my fellowship colleagues, the patients, the volunteers, even the caregivers, they came and they started and peeling, and they started helping, and suddenly it became not our program, my program, it becomes our program. And I can't recall for the last time when I cried in happiness. I cried out of joy. So when the lunch was served, they start calling, come and eat. And suddenly I feel that I'm crying. So I'm crying and tears are rolling in my eyes, and then I thought that IPM is something that I shouldn't try to take in my head. IPM is something that I need to feel in my heart. It's a feeling. It's not a thinking. And what the feeling is, I asked many of the volunteers that why you come to IPM, why, how do they feel? So I try to figure it out in myself. Have you seen any river, very calm, quiet river, flowing through from the spring, coming down, very soothing. It's like something very cold, very smooth, flowing in my heart. And that smoothness, that little bit love, little bit affection, it's something mixed, something that touched. And I can't say it in words. There is joy, there is melancholia. Yeah, I have melancholia because Shivani asked me that why we seven here this time. I just wish that we can take this piece of IPM and place it in Bangladesh. I was doing the live yesterday, all the stages and programs, just to show our country, just to show our volunteers, just to show us that this can happen. People are sitting in wheelchair or not, everybody is enjoying, and there is life. I thought IPM is the story of death, story of dying. And I will come and learn something and put my hand as a Jesus Christ on the people and say, don't worry, I am very learned. But that was very wrong. IPM taught me, yeah, I will honestly say, IPM taught me to put a mirror in front of my eyes and to identify my limitations, get away of my pride, to accept my limitation, to accept others' limitation, to feel. The last day when I was leaving, I don't know, I was just crying there Suddenly one man in the wheelchair, he came and he gave me a coin of 10 rupees. And he said, remember me. So that brings tear to me. When we are cooking, somebody, Catherine, she was our colleague, she was from Spain and working there in Ghana. She gave me a flower braid that you had. So one patient asked me, will you get married with me? So in our culture, what happened if somebody say, will you get married with me? I used to bring my sword and, hey, my feminist soul get, heighten up. You men, you are asking me to get married. But suddenly I look at the eyes of that man. He's on the wheelchair and he's smiling. And I said, do you really want? And then he said, yeah, in the afterlife, next life. So I will ask him that, I asked him, how are you going to find me in your afterlife? So he just hold my hand and say, I will find this hand. So I was just thinking that, is it possible for me, if I am sitting in that wheelchair and ask something and crack that joke with someone? So when I was returning from IPM, I was taking a different Sanjida. A very different Sanjida in my heart. Yeah, I'm getting emotional, but yeah, that's true. And yeah, and thank you. And at that moment, I was talking with the volunteers, and we suddenly decide that let's bring a team. So we tried for 10 this time, but most of them, they don't have passport. Few of them, they have visas. So at last, we managed a few. So hopefully, let us know at least 2 months before the next Curious, so that a large Bangladeshi team can come and feel the essence that I am carrying, the fragrance that I am carrying in my heart. This is to feel. This is not to say, not to talk. Thank you, Shivani.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing these beautiful moments. I think that they're moments for you to cherish, but they're also enriching experiences that we can all take away from. So my next and last question is for Dr. Nizam. You shared that you have 30 years of experience, more than 30 years of experience in this field. And so I know it's impossible for you to summarize any of that up in this session, but I wanted to ask you, for a younger generation of healthcare workers, students, volunteers, whoever it may be, what advice would you like to impart on them?
When people get old, they have a tendency to become emotional. And at this age of nearing 70, I don't want to show my emotion. The message, well, I don't believe in sending message, but I would urge upon you all in this institute to keep it like this. To keep it like this. You don't know what magic you have created in this piece of land. To me, personally, if I am born 10 times, I would love to be back 100 times to this IPM in future. And then why? Why? Because this place, I have been to many places, quite a few, if not too many places on this planet. But this one is something sacred. It's like a pilgrimage to me. And why it is that? And because the midnight that I reached here, from there to up to now, it has been more than 18, 19 years. One thing I have probably learned, showing respect to individual human being. Right from the very top to the very bottom, if there is anything called top and bottom. The respect that has been shown to me is actually the respect that person showed to himself. And I have no choice but to try to remain respectful to each and every human being and their values. So the message is probably only this: please maintain it. The world needs IPM. The world needs people like you. World needs places like you. Let there be thousands and thousands of IPM. to let the compassion flow, which we need very much on this planet. Thank you very much. Thanks from the very core of my heart.
Thank you so much. And I want everyone to give a big round of applause for our three beautiful speakers, Dr. Nizam, Dr. Jiohara, and Dr. Sanjita, for sharing their experiences. I think we have a lot to take away. In an hour, I know it's impossible to cover every story, every experience, but I think in this hour we've covered a whole lot of cherishing moments that we can actually take away from and learn from. I don't know if we have time for questions. But if anyone from the audience does have any questions, please feel free to ask.
I heard a lot about palliative care working in slums of Bangladesh. Can you say a couple of words about?
When there was a palliative care department in the topmost university of the Bangladesh, suddenly a feeling came within us that we had been pursuing a very convenient palliative care program. It's far away from what we learned from IPM, a community base. So we got an opportunity to take it back to the community, so we decided to create a program in the biggest slum of Dhaka. I don't know how many of you have seen slums, but this is a place, 140,000 people living in a small area. The biggest one in this region is probably Dharavi slum in Bombay, and it's not as big as Dharavi, but it's something like that. Now, as Sikumar, you asked me the experience, two-word sentence I will just say. One is, I think we began this program in 2015 and it's 2023. So 8 years, my learning in that slum is much more than my learning of 40 years in other institutions. There I learned, there I saw life, and there I explored my own self in that slum. Number one. Number two, what's that like? What's the model? I can't claim that there's a model like this Kerala, where there's a world-renowned neighborhood network of palliative care. Nothing actually like that, but we are trying, it's something in between the institution and the community-based program. We have actually 12 health assistants specially trained for palliative care, and they are making the bridge between the slum people and the civil society who is maintaining. And we are trying to generate more and more volunteers, and gradually this is becoming a community-owned program. That's one thing. I'd like to share another small little things that if you really want something, how much you can do. Very recently, we have a children's program within that palliative care program in the slum, and there are about 26 children within this program. Now, very recently, it's been a month actually, that we are trying to develop a respite care center within the slum for these 26 children. We have a long way to go to reach what you are doing here, but this is only a beginning of taking care of these wheel-bound children. This is something like that. I would love to probably share more with Kumar about this slum program, but this is something which is, I wouldn't say like your program here, something in between, a little bit compromise between the institution-based and community-based program. Thank you.
So we'll wrap up there. Thank you once again to everyone, the audience, and our panelists for taking the time to be here.
Shivani, on behalf of the V3 and all, I would like to thank you for asking these really beautiful questions and not trying to sort of embarrassing us with very, very difficult questions. or academic questions, but it was very pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you, Shivani.
My pleasure. Thank you.